Hello, in this video we will discuss the concept of NAT. Guys, NAT stands for Network Address Translation. So I will show you how you can perform static NAT and how you can perform PAT. So static NAT is always used for NAT for servers. So if you have a server in your domain and if you want to provide access of that particular server to the outside world, you can use the concept of static NAT. And what is PAT? Whenever you want to provide access of internet to all the users which are present in your network. So we will do it step by step. So I am using the same topology. So I will start it by configuring the LAN present on the ISP side. So interface FA0 by 0, no shut, IP address 180.1.1.10. This is the outside server. So I'm assigning the IP 180.1.1.1, 180.1.1.10. That's the gateway. Correct. Now on this computer, so this will act as outside user. So let me check it again on the router. It is correct. So first of all, I will show you NAT for servers, static NAT. So this is my server. Fine. So I want to access this server from this particular user. So for example, this is a HTTP server. So let's go to services and let me see HTTP services enabled or not. You can see HTTP and HTTP services both are enabled. So I want this user to access this server using a public IP. So to achieve that, first of all, we have to define, or you can say whenever you are configuring NAT, you have to divide your configuration into steps. Step number 1, define NAT inside and outside interfaces. And second, configure NAT rule. So by configuring just these two simple steps, your NAT will be done. So on this router, I will configure NAT inside and outside interfaces. How? Look here. R2. All the interfaces which are pointing to my enterprise network will be IP NAT inside. And the interfaces which are pointing to the internet like serial 2/0 will act as IP NAT outside. So you can see the interface F1 by 0 and FA0 by 0 are acting as inside, whereas serial 2/0 is acting as outside. Now you want to configure NAT rule. Step number 2, I will run the command IP NAT inside source static. And I will translate which IP. 2113 is the actual IP of server and I am using 231110 to be the public IP of the server. It means router will always translate source address 2113 into 231110 whenever traffic will go from inside to outside interface. As we are configuring static NAT, it means this entry will remain in translation table. You can see this entry is permanent. It means if the traffic is initiated from outside, in that case also destination will be translated to 2113. 231110 will be translated into 2113 like I am showing you here. So if this user is going to the browser and he is trying to access 231110, so he is able to access a server. This is actually this particular server. Fine. How this access is working? 180.112 is actually generating traffic for 231110. When it is received by a router on outside interface, router will check NAT rule and translate destination 231110 into 2113 and send the packet to the server. When the server will send the packet back, source will be translated and the reply will be given to the user. So this is how these things are working. Let's move to R2 and run the same command again. You can see we have a translation happening for which traffic? Port 80. Port 80 means HTTP traffic. So this is how you can configure static NAT. Second is you want to configure PAT. So you want that all the traffic which is initiated from your enterprise should go to internet, but the source IP address of every packet will be translated to your public address. And I am using here your public address as 23112. That is your interface IP. So you want that all the traffic initiated from your enterprise will reach internet, and that will be translated to which address? 23112. So for that you have to perform configurations again in the same way. Define inside and outside interfaces, that is actually done. We just have to configure a new NAT rule for PAT, because here we are translating multiple IPs into a single IP. So that's why we are configuring PAT. So command is IP NAT inside source list. So here you have to define what are your source network which will generate the traffic. Actually you are defining the networks which will be translated. You are defining the sources which will be translated. So you have to define it in a list, and you can define a named or numbered access list, but I have not defined. I will define it very soon. And after, let's say name is ABC, after that you have to define an interface number in which you want to translate. So one configuration is extra, that is to match the source we need a access list. So I will create access list extended. I will give it a name LAN. Now which are my LAN networks? I have two LAN networks. Okay. Let's not create an extended one, create a standard one. IP access list, standard, name is LAN, permit network. Which network? 10110. Then we have permit, which network? 2110. So these two are my LAN networks. So I will run the command IP NAT inside source list. Name of list is LAN. So whenever source will match in this particular LAN ACL, I will translate it into interface. Which interface? Serial 2/0. And I forget to use the keyword overload. Otherwise, what device will think it is dynamic NAT. So if I will use the keyword here overload, only then router will assume that it is PAT. Otherwise, it will perform dynamic NAT. So now what I am expecting, that every user is able to access internet, because we already have routing. But I don't have default routing on this router, because this router doesn't know about any destination which is existing outside the enterprise. So let me check show IP route. You can check this router only knows about 10, 12s and 20s network. No default route is there. So I have to define a default route manually. 12.1.1. So now if this user tries to reach which IP, for example, let me check the outside server. Service is enabled or not? Yes, service is enabled. So if this user tries to reach 180.1.1.1, it is able to reach. And now you can also see translation on R2. Show IP NAT translation. So you can see translations for which user 10.1.1.1. He is sending traffic to actually 180.1.1.1, but 10.1.1.1 is translated to which IP? 23.1.1.2. Now guys, you can see some keywords like inside local, inside global, outside local, outside global. Inside local means my private IP. Inside global means the public IP to which I will be translated. Outside local means the private address of the server. Maybe we are running NAT at the server end also, but we are not aware about it. So in our case, outside global and outside local addresses will be same. But again, I am telling outside global means the public address of server. Outside local means the local address of server. But in our case, both will be same. If from any other user I will try to access the same server, that is 180.1.1.1, I am able to access, and you can see here translation on R2 also, for which user this time 2111. So we can see the translations here. So guys, in this video we have discussed the concept of static NAT and PAT. Thank you.